Yo, guys. It is old Manchi here, back again. I'm also joined by the amazing Tom, the journalist, and we are here. We've actually got quite a lot to discuss today. Actually, the season is upon us. The new 2024-25 Premier League season is upon us, which means a lot of football-related content is on your way. But before we get into it, if you are new to the channel, to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter at We United X and smash that notification button. Latest Manchester United news and more. Obviously, as you can see in the title below, this is kind of like it's the season preview for the season. I certainly have thoughts. I'm sure Tom does. I'm sure you do in the comments. So please get involved as well. I put a poll in the community tab in regarding how people feel for the season. Are you optimistic or not? And I'll probably put a poll in the chat as well. But we're going to be talking about that. As you can see, the tier list to my right there regarding ranking some of the players as to how you think that they will fit in this season. Obviously, this is provisional because there are reports about some additional signings, and obviously during the show we will probably touch about some of the reports coming out regarding ligt, Mazraoui, Ugarte, Wan-Bissaka, etc. But of course, on that, we're going to be going in and trying to sort of really delve into what Manchester United's best starting 11 actually is for this season. This is going to be a very interactive show, by the way, guys. So get involved in the comments, give our thoughts as well. But yeah, we're going to be talking about who you think the best starting 11 is for Manchester United so far. We can't go by hypotheticals because we've not signed ligt or Mazraoui yet. But so far, who do you think is the best starting for Manchester United? And then we'll finish up with the Community Shielders tomorrow. We are doing a watch along for it, and so we were doing a preview to say what exactly is it that, or how should Manchester United line up against City and what's the best way to take them down. So a lot, as you can imagine. Big up Matthew in the chat. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Thank you, Bronze. Big up. And obviously for Brits in chat as well. Big up as well, bro. But yeah, Tom, buddy, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm not doing well, and myself doing well, G, and everyone in the chat as well. And yeah, don't forget to like, share, subscribe as always, people, and all that good stuff. And like I always say, let's get G to that next milestone. And yeah, we'll push a good show for you tonight anyway, regarding for the preview of the season and the preview for the match upcoming tomorrow. So yeah, we'll have a good show. Get your comments in.
Appreciate it. Right. Okay, let's get straight into it. So obviously, before we get into the players, obviously, you know, my thoughts so far is that I'll be honest with you and everyone community, I am actually quite worried about the upcoming season. I am quite worried. I feel like, you know, we're in the similar situation that we were last season, where I didn't feel like we were actually prepared. And I feel like we're even less prepared now. Now, of course, the transfer window isn't open yet, isn't closed yet, so there's still time to rectify things. But even, you know, with the issues of injuries that Manchester United had last season, that we're seeing this season, given what's happened with Shaw, Malacia, etc., I do have concerns, and I don't really know. You know, aside from the fact that, you know, we've got kobbie mainoo, who's obviously going to be starting this season, which I think will make a big difference compared to we didn't have him, I think, until was it end of October last season. So him being available from the beginning of the season, I think, is a massive boost for us from a midfield point of view. You know, the Ahmad's involvement, and also, you know, so the restitution or the reconciliation between Ten Hag and Sancho will be helpful. So from that point of view, I think I don't have to see any concerns there. But so far, anyway, I am worried about. I'm still worried about the midfield. I think that Casemiro and Eriksen aren't going to get any better. I think from a pace point of view, etc. I just don't see them getting better with how they are. McTominay is McTominay, and mainoo is mainoo, and obviously Bruno, you know, will do his thing. And as far as the defense goes, with the Euro injury and with Varane gone, you know, I would argue Manchester United are currently weaker. And we don't know how fit Lisandro's going to be. Lisandro has obviously played Copa America. He's doing good. He'll be back, but, we don't really know how, especially over a 60-plus game season, whether he's going to be available or not. And then if Lisandro is out, you're basically currently, anyway, I'll say currently, left with Maguire, Evans, and Lindelof. And if that is how we're going to continue for the rest of the season, you look and you think, how are we in a situation where we're basically got the same centre-back pairing that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer basically had from the beginning of his tenure at Manchester United, So yeah, I think that, when I look so far at the squad, I do have concerns for this team. I do have concerns for the season, especially given how other clubs have strengthened, looking at West Ham, looking even Chelsea signing Pedro Neto, etc. So thinking that we are going to somehow progress and somehow bounce back from 8th to top 4, I'm not entirely sure is realistic. But those are my thoughts. Tom, what are your thoughts on this upcoming season before we get into the players?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I think it's going to be a topsy-turvy season, but the difference that I believe anyway that we might see is you might see a better style of play. You might see something that maybe entertains you a little bit. And I think that's the only other piece to say why Erik ten Hag should probably get a lot more trust going forward. And I think he would get a lot more faith put in him by the fan base because he took an absolute, flocking last season. And a lot of the fans, listen, they got to hate it. They wanted to hang him at the end of that season. They did. Some of it, it was a divided fan base. And at Manchester United, the one question that you can never have is you can never be divided on a manager. You either have to fully back them at this sort of a club, or you don't think they're the right person for the job, so you have to get someone new in. The hierarchy believe he's the right person for the job, given all different circumstances, which we've been over before, and we know what those are with other candidates and so on. But the one thing that I've always said with Ten Hag going into this season is he's got everything that he wanted when he first came to the club. He wanted to have a club structure above him that would support him, and he had similar people who understood him and the way that he wants to build a team. He wanted to bring in his own coaching staff of his choice. When he came to the club, he could only bring in 2 coaches. He wanted 5 members of staff from Ajax. He only got the one in Michel van der Gaag. That was it. And then Benny McCarthy, Steve McLaren, and Eric Ramsey were all forced upon him to join the coaching staff because they had connection with the football club, or because they saw them on the open market on the coaching listings and thought, okay, they've had a decent spell maybe as an assistant or as a manager in a league that suits how Ten Hag is familiar with football. We'll just put them together. But it wasn't his choice. He didn't get what he wanted. The difference is now it's his own team. He's got the people that he wants. He's got people with a lot of experience in their own areas of field in terms of attack play, maybe from Ruud van Nistelrooy and the way his PSV team played. And in the same way with Rennie Hack's Go Ahead Eagles team, in the way that that they're very strong defensive setup, unified. But the bigger point is, I don't necessarily think United will be as successful as they have been the previous 2 years, to the point of that they're going to win trophies, or certainly challenge for any big trophies. But I think the more pointing for United fans is we just want to see some progression. We want to see that there is a clear plan, that there is a style of play that's being built, something that's going to entertain you week in, week out. Because there has been games last season, especially with Manchester United, where it was like a basketball match, but Man United was always getting dunked on, and they were getting 3-pointed from like 50 yards away. There's a massive gap in midfield. No players were touching people in midfield for like 30, 40 yards. That can't happen. You can't give clubs that kind of space and not expect to be punished. And United got that last season. But at the end of the day, I think the more bigger point going forward for this season is that there just has to be that understanding of that either they're giving Ten Hag a complete fresh start with a whole new squad, and they're almost writing off what he'd done the previous 2 years, and basically saying, "This is a new start for you. Show us what you can do." And if it gets to Christmas, for example, and it's similar to what they've basically been doing the last 2 seasons in terms of a style of play, maybe the results are as poor as they were last season. I think there will be an element of the club will look at it and think, is he the right guy to take us forward? They didn't give him this massive contract extension that people thought he was going to get. They thought he was going to get another 3 years and all this, that, the other. No. He's basically just signed another year, and then he's got an option to extend for another year. But that's the club have to trigger that, not him. So effectively, he's just been given another 12 months on top of what he already had. That's it. I wouldn't personally call that backing, but that's people's opinions anyway. But yeah, I agree with you as well that I think other clubs have strengthened around us. But I think the difference with fans' perception of it is, I think the worry is more so the sort of profile of players United have signed, because they're signing a lot of talent. They're not signing a lot of proven players. But the difference is, you can look at players that say Chelsea might sign in Pedro Neto, and you might think he's the finished article. You might look at Zubimendi if Liverpool end up signing him and think he's the finished article. The difference is United might be saving themselves that 60, 70 million pound payout, because why spend 70 million pounds on maybe a player like Pedro Neto when you could just develop Ahmed for a season and give him a go? Why would you do the same thing, say, with Lenny Euro, if you want to develop him, instead of going out there and paying 70, 80 million pounds for Bramford? Again, a similar sort of development style, but at the end of the day, you just have to see that progression on all elements of the club and see how far it goes. Yeah, you're on mute, G, mate. You're on mute.
I forgot I'm on mute. Sorry. Thanks, Tom. David T in the chat has a question. I assume they're going to be interspersed transfer questions coming out. Yeah. Hey, Tom, is the news about a potential Hermoso deal true? There is some stuff coming about that him, isn't there? So
yeah, in terms of Atletico Madrid, the difference with Atletico Madrid is they want to sign Conor Gallagher on the books as well. The difference is Atletico Madrid are on one of UEFA's amber lists in terms of financial regulations, so they have to try and sell players. So from what I understand it, Hermoso, this sort of link and leak that's come out hasn't come from Manchester United, and it hasn't come from Madrid. I would push it more to the point of the agent of Hermoso is pushing a deal to try and get him a club to sign him, which benefits Atletico Madrid. It benefits the agent because he gets an agent fee out of it, and it benefits his client because he gets a new club and he gets a fresh start somewhere. So effectively, I would say this is more of an agency talk than it is anything to do with any club. But if you want to put a player on the market, link them with one of the big three in the world, either Barcelona, Real Madrid. You can't really do that because it doesn't stick, because they're Atletico's rivals. So who do you do it next with? Manchester United. That's the easiest one to do.
No, I think that's a fair point. Although Hermos is a free agent, so would that affect, because it now is a free agent? Would that affect things?
No, what I was meaning was, in terms of Atletico Madrid, when because he's a free agent, he's still owed money through Atletico Madrid. The difference is his contract with Atletico Madrid. He can still re-sign back up with Madrid if he wants to, but Atletico Madrid, if they sign him back up, they want to then straight away sell him to get a price tag for him. The difference is now the agent can put him out there on the open market as a free agent, kind of like what we discussed with Rabiot before on a previous stream. He can talk to whoever he wants, but there is always that back door to go to Atletico Madrid. But the terms of whatever they would offer him would obviously lower because he's not signed up earlier or sooner.
Fine. Okay, that makes sense. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for clarifying that, mate. And hope that answers your question, David T. Right. Okay. Yeah. Back onto the back on the show. But yeah, if there's transfer news that comes out during the show or around, then by all means, we can obviously address it. Especially if the stuff is obviously a lot more spicy. Because there has been stuff that's come out. But if I'm honest, even though I've seen quite a lot of stuff today, it still seems to be more in the vein of they're talking, people are talking, people are talking. A lot of it doesn't sound very definitive to me. So, but that's just my 2 cents. That's why I've not really dedicated a kind of a show to it. So, but anyway, so yeah, so let's just moving on to and as hopefully everyone can see here, they can see the kind of the tier list with the images of most of the squad here. So what we're gonna do, and again, make this interactive. So get involved in the chat, guys. Those who are watching, make sure you're getting involved. What we're going to do, right, is we're going to go through most of the entire squad that we have so far, and we're going to basically rank them or rate them based on crucial, whether crucial as in absolutely starting 11. So as in they will start on a starting 11, but if a big enough offer comes, then you're happy to sell them. Is what I put in the starting 11 box. Then you've got rotation, so as in squad players, etc., who could come in and come out, etc. And then last chance, i.e., this player has performed very, very badly for quite some time, and this is probably their last chance, you think. And then finally, like no chance, loan, sell, give them some time away from the club, etc., etc. The loaning. So let's start obviously with we've obviously got Joshua Zirkzee here, who's obviously one of our new strikers. And now I think this is very interesting because now, I mean, I don't know what you think. I'm actually going to put him in crucial for now. And the reason why I'm putting him in crucial is more so for the fact that it doesn't sound like we are going to be so far. We're in for another striker, number 9. And Højlund, for a young player, seems to be picking up quite a few injuries. Yes, obviously had it in now from the season, but he's picking up. So, when we look at number 9, United once again don't really have a experienced number 9 right now. And given Højlund's sort of, recurrent injuries, Zirkzee, and obviously Martial's gone, so he really is Manchester United's only number 9, and he will be nice on number 9 on the weekend. So is it fair to say that Zirkzee will play a crucial role this season? I mean, I don't know what you think, Tom.
Yeah, I personally think he will do. But Ten Hag's kind of flirted with the idea of that him and Højlund could play together. So if you want to talk about adaptability, maybe to change the style or change the formation of it, he might be able to do that and play 4-4-2 or a different sort of pattern of play, if you like when he's made this 3-1-6 formation, kind of try and get it to work, but it hasn't worked in the Premier League. Maybe come up with a different pattern of play, but I just think Zirkzee fits a lot of the bill of what United were missing, particularly last season, which is that separation option. I think he's very similar in the mould of what Martial is in terms of a style of play. I do think in terms of development, for what he is at the age that he is right now, I do think his ceiling may be a little bit higher than what Martial's was when he first came to the club. Albeit Martial came for a bit more money than Zirkzee did. The difference is the adaptability of a player like Zirkzee is he doesn't just have to play as a number 9. He does have that flair and creative style that you could play him as a 10 if you needed, and you can play him out wide. So as a versatile forward, that's what he will give you. He will give you an option of every single area across the front line and an attacking midfield sense. But the difference is he wants to make his own impact within this team. So irrespective of if Højlund's going to score goals week in, week out, the best way that I can see it for Zirkzee is if the game suits a more creative-minded player than a goal scorer does, I would suggest that Zirkzee will have a lot more influence in those kind of games than he will do in maybe a game where it's just about break somebody down, put some balls in the box and see if it sticks. But he gives you that different option that they didn't have last season.
So I realize I put myself in. Yeah, no, that's fair. I think that's fair. Obviously Lenny Euro, obviously he's injured, so he's not so. But I mean, I don't know, Tom. Do you think he when he comes back and obviously gets the team? Do you think he becomes a starting 11 player, or do you think he's rotational?
I think the idea was that it'll probably be rotation. I think the idea again is that they were probably going to sign another centre back anyway, which we've been over before. And the dream was that they wanted both Braithwaite and Euro. They can't get both of them because the financial deals of both of them. They saw the Euro deal as a better deal, and they see that the potential that he has for the future is far more than what Jared Braithwaite is, and he's 3 years younger than Braithwaite. So at a development stage, he's doing very well for what an 18-year-old should be capable of and doing on a world football stage. I think the plan again was that they was going to bring in Delay, and it was almost like going to be a case of, okay, we will play Lissandro next to whichever partner, kind of like the Zirkzee Hoyland thing, whatever suits the game. So if you need a player who's maybe going to put the knee into the back of a number 9 and be a bit more physical with them, kind of like what a Maguire had done recently. But the difference with De Ligt is he's worked with this coach before, which played his best football under this coach. So he knows where his strengths are on that pitch. That's the one thing that I will say with Ten Hag. So if he does use him as that player to put the knee in the back of players and almost be that aerial dominant player that we saw that he could be at Ajax, but he also had the ball distribution skills and he could move the ball out. If you can adapt that player to come and play his best football at Manchester United like he did at Ajax, then it will almost be a De Ligt and Martinez solution. And Lenny Euro will almost be that sit on the bench, we'll buy your time with you. But I think it's even more crucial now that they use that solution that I've just said, just because you can't aggravate this kid's injury. You've paid a lot of money for an 18-year-old who you think is going to be a superstar. You can't just throw him out there and hope that it's going to stick, because if he pulls something else and it's a reoccurring injury, you're going to have the same problem that we've been over many a time when United buy talented players. Luke Shaw was the future of this football club once upon a time. Had that one major injury, he's never been the same player since. Martinez had that one major injury in that Sevilla game. Has he really been the same player since? He's been in and out of the team. He's still a quality player, but he's in and out of the team. Eric Bailly is another one. Top player when they bought him. Came to Man United, had one major injury, blew his ACL out, bang. Never been the same player. We've been over this story before, and at the end of the day, if you can have a player like De Ligt come in and he can stay fit himself and he can almost be that gardening shield, okay, you maybe play Lenny Euro in some of the games and just ease him back into the squad, but don't put pressure on the kid. And the one thing that I would say more importantly is he's 18 years old. He's not this finished article, and people, they are going to have to understand he will make mistakes. You saw it in the Arsenal game where he misjudged the flight of the ball and certain things like that. He's going to have these tests. He needs to learn. He's 18 years old. He's done very well for the age that he's at. But he's here to learn. He's here to develop. They see him as the finished player in maybe 4 or 5 years' time. Not right now.
Well, even then, I mean, to be honest, most defenders don't really peak, I would argue, or start peaking until they're at least in their mid to late 20s. You know, I don't know many people that I would say rate as like, oh, this guy was a top defender until he was at least 25 plus. You know, so I think you're right. I think it's a bit foolish to think that the Euro should be this sort of defender. And unfortunately, the last time we had an issue of that was, I would argue, De Ligt. He was young, he got rated really highly, and then he went to Juve and it didn't work out. And Bayern, you know, don't apparently rate him. So, Rob says, I just hope we don't have a repeat of season with the injuries. I mean, bro, it already looks like we're having an injury situation. Let's put it that way. We're having an injury situation right now. So I'm not cool. I'm not cool with it either, but that seems to be where we are. Let's quickly move on because I know we've got a lot of stuff to talk about on this show, especially the best starting 11 and finish sure. So, but let's speed through. So, I mean, Shaw. I mean, I don't know what you think, I'm sure, but for me, I think this is his last chance.
I agree.
Because we should be giving him a new contract. I think Luke Shaw at his best is a really good fullback, arguably one of the world's best. But at his worst, he's unfit, injury prone, and sometimes slow. So and this is one of the reasons why I guess I talk about the Wan-Bissaka thing is that okay, yes, we'll get rid of Wan-Bissaka and so forth, but Wan-Bissaka goes, and if we don't sign another fullback, hopefully we do, you're left with Diallo, Shaw, and Malacia. And Shaw is not reliable injury-wise. Malacia's not been seen, not here, not. So, I hope that the fullback position is a priority because it is. It should be. And even if we sign a fullback, you're still effectively using maybe two, maybe with occasional cameos from Luke Shaw, Malacia to help, So for me, but unlike Malacia, who's, still young and still got time, Luke Shaw has been here for ages, and I just don't know whether we're going to get the best out of him anymore. And I would rather, most teams have at least two functioning fullbacks during the season, and United have not. So for me, last chance, Loon, and if he can keep himself fit, fine. If he doesn't, I think we should be prepared. We could make a case he should be prepared to be sold already, but that would be what I would say. But I don't know what you think, Tom.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you can only look at what you see right now. He's not even going to play tomorrow. The guy, he was injured for I think it was about 3 months towards the end of last season. He didn't play a game for 3 months. He went to the Euros. He didn't play hardly any of the competition games. Get to the final. Started. Played one game. He's played one game properly, really, in the last 4 months. And then he's come back to United, fitness training, and he's already injured, and he's not fit. I'm sorry, but I understand players under UEFA's guidelines, they have to go away and they have to have a holiday and stuff. But at the end of the day, you can use that 3 weeks, have 10 days of a holiday, and then use the other 14 days or whatever of your holiday that you're supposed you're going to use and train. I've seen players do it. They go to Portugal to rehabilitation and fitness department centres. Players go do the same thing out in Dubai. There's places, there's hubs that you can go and do it, and you get fit. There was loads of players from last summer that went over to Portugal. There was Fernandes was there, Declan Rice, Marcus Rashford was there. Rehabilitation fitness centres, they get you into peak conditional sharpness for pre-season or a start of a season if you're not going to be with your club straight away within 10 days. 10 days, you're in peak conditions, fitness-wise. Luke Shaw could have easily took that opportunity and done that. He knows this, he knows the system, and he knows how it works. He's 28, coming on up to 29 years old. He should know what his demands of his body and what he can do and what he can't. And at the end of the day, professional footballers will take out what they can off of the training pictures and put it into practice in their own personal life. I've used this story before. Emerson Royal was one of the most injury hit and fatigued fitness players that I've known of anyway within football. Barcelona signed him from Real Betis, and in the same summer they sold him because of the fitness irregularity issues that they'd seen within training. So they didn't want to take a risk on him because they just didn't think that he was going to do anything. He went to Spurs. What he did at Spurs, he sought help from the rehabilitation department and medical department at Spurs. They put him in the right contracted camps. He went on a 2-month camp over the summer, the first pre-season with Spurs. Through the duration of that camp that he went to, I think he went to Spain in Malaga for rehabilitation camp. He came back. He's had about 1 injury in the last 3 seasons. But for a player who had so many injuries through his whole career, up to that point and had major fitness issues, do you do something like that? And you take a bit of time out of your personal life and your career, and you focus on your career. It can be done. I've seen it be done in football, and it can be done. So the fact that Luke Shaw, if he wants to use the excuse of I can't do it anymore, or the demands are too high, okay, well you're at the wrong club then. So it's as simple as that. If you're not going to be able to stay fit for I would say 30, 35 games of a season in between that bracket, you're no good to any club, really. You're on mute again, G.
Right, keep on. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with my point. I don't disagree with that at all. Moving on, Bruno. Well, he's going to be. I don't think you can say he's going to be in the starting 11. He's the captain. There's going to be no change. I do think that I would like to see a bit of rotation with him. So. Although I guess the question is who, do you play Mason Mount where he is? Could you maybe play Sancho where? I don't know. So, but I would like to see a little bit of change. But I mean, right now, Manchester United, I don't think really have a sort of a creative attacking player really, and Bruno is kind of it. I think Eriksen could have been that, but he's just not that player anymore. So, yeah, he's going to be in the starting 11. So I don't think we can discuss that. Rashford, likewise, he will be he'll be in the starting 11. I know people say he'll be dropped. I don't think he will. There's always a debate as to who starts him or Garnacho. Does Garnacho, he stays on the left, Garnacho on the right, whatever. I don't know. Ten Hag has obviously dropped him before, but you've got to think of the likes of Anthony, Sancho, and Ahmad, all who play on the right, and then you've got Garnacho. There's going to be competition there. So I would like to believe that Rashford isn't necessarily going to be guaranteed his spot. And if you have to play, because, Sancho can play on the left and the right. We've only seen really Ahmad on the right so far. Sancho can play in the middle as well. Garnacho can play on the left and right. So really, it's Rashford that doesn't have the adaptability. Rashford really has only been good on the left-hand side, and that's been about it. So you've got to think about Garnacho there. So I still think Ten Hag will back him, but it's Rashford is one to watch because there is a lot of competition up front. I mean, we've not even talked about Zirkzee and where Zirkzee would go. If you play Zirkzee in the number 9 position, you're left with 2, and then you're left, and you have. Personally, you can make a case that we should probably sell one of our forwards, one of our right wingers. Is it really feasible to have Anthony, Sancho, and Ahmad all at the club at the same time? That's 3 white wingers. Although, yes, I appreciate that Sancho can play on the left as well, so that's in his favor. But when you look at Anthony and Ahmad, you could make a case that is there a place for Anthony? I saw his post. I'm going to do this season, but I'm like, but where are you going to fit in the starting 11? Because you're not going to play on the left, Anthony. You're not going to play as a number 9, which Sancho can adapt to those other positions. And if we're honest, Ahmad has been far better than you in the last season. So I don't know. But we'll come back to that. Mason Mount, probably rotation, I think.
Yeah.
Although I don't really know how Mason Mount still fits into this team, because you can't play, I think, 2 8s in this team. We just don't have the ability to do that without exposing the back four and conceding tons of goals. So if he's going to come as a squad, I suspect he'll probably be off the left, or he'll replace Bruno. But I've not seen many times Bruno being subbed, so I genuinely don't know where Mason Mount fits into the squad, because Bruno isn't going to be subbed, with maybe 1 or 2 occasions towards the end of the game. So where does Mason Mount come in? Maybe off the wing. I don't know. Lindelof, what do you think about Lindelof, Tom?
I think I'd put him in the sell category.
Yeah.
Like you said before, you made the comment at the start of the stream about it. Like right now, as it stands with the current squad, you are one injury away from the centre back partnership. You had coming up 3 years ago, 4 years ago, Lindelof and Maguire, and we know how that ended with Ole. We know how it was under Ragnick, and even when Ten Hag's had to rely upon them as a partnership, you know something? When one of them play on their own next to somebody who's maybe a bit more competent, like Martinez, they don't actually play that bad. I don't think, Jay. In some games,
No, I agree.
yeah,
I agree.
listen, they have some terrible games, but they don't actually play that bad when they play next to somebody who is maybe a different type of player that they are. The problem with Lindelof and Maguire is they're almost the same player, but Maguire's about 4 foot taller. That's the problem that you have between the two of them, and neither of them can run. That's the problem. Lindelof, he doesn't really offer you much defensive security. He gets bullied off the ball so many times. We've seen it before. Maguire, if you get past him, he's done. There's no recovery of his game at all.
Yeah.
And when you put both of those two kind of players' profiles together, it just doesn't fit. It's disjointed. The difference when you play someone like Martinez is, it's not so much that Martinez is a killer in terms of, he can run for days and, he's got that recovery pace. The difference is he reads the game well, he understands the game well, and he knows where the threats are going to come from attacking runs. That's the difference with a player like Martinez, whereas Lindelof can't offer him that, and vice versa for each other. They just don't match. So for me, with Lindelof anyway, again, I always say this about players. If you've been here a decade, or if you've been here, say, for at least a full contract, you don't deserve to sign on again unless you've proven something at this club. And for me, I don't think he's proven anything really at all, probably since that first season under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, that's it. And that's the only decent season I could probably give him.
To answer the question of Isla buddy, unfortunately I'm working, but I'll probably be catching on some TV. But yeah, unfortunately I'm working, but I would love to. I do want to try and get down to some United games this season. So yeah, that would be good. But yeah, big up by the way, and follow on Twitch. So follow me on Twitch as well. For those in the chat as well, if you're on Twitch, please give me a follow. I'd appreciate it. I'm streaming live to Twitch, Kick, Twitter, and obviously YouTube as well. So give me a follow, give me a like, subscribe. You know that jazz. Let's quickly speed through these these players so we can get into our best starting 11 and then the Shield preview. So let's put Lindelof in sell here. I see McTominay is also going to be in the loan sell category. Well. I don't think we need to really divulge into that, to be honest. Let's just move on. We know why. I mean, the only potential you put him here is just the fact that, and maybe I can make an argument for McTominay, is that he was Manchester United's second highest goal scorer last season. If McTominay didn't score his goals, where would United have finished? Potentially 10th. So, while we should sell him, you also got to think, okay, well, who's going to replace McTominay's goal scoring? Are we assuming that, McTominay outscored Rashford in the league? And all essentially, I think first was Højlund, I think, and then McTominay. I don't know how many games they scored over, but that's what happened. So if you're letting your second highest goal scorer last season go, you better hope that the other players are going to chip in for goals. Because quite honestly, McTominay's finishing was actually. I'm not even talking about number 9. His actual finishing was better.
Yeah,
like his finishing in the box was better than a lot of our forwards. So, although I think he should be loaned and sold, there is a part of me in my mind that goes, well, okay, yes, he bought Joshua Zirkzee. Maybe let's see what happens. But this guy was basically the best finisher for United all last season. And there is no evidence that I have so far that says that Rashford, Anthony, or even Garnacho even are going to sort of get more goals. It's just that Garnacho's young, so you never know. Ahmad is still we don't know. We still because he's not had a full season under his belt with United. And Jadon Sancho, you know, even when he was playing regularly, it wasn't that he was GAing and scoring every single game. So we don't know how that's going to work out in the consult. So I don't know, but we'll keep him here for now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to dwell on Onana really. I mean, he's going to be in the starting 11. And then, although goalkeeping concerns, but it is what it is. Jadon Sancho. I don't know what about you, Tom, but I'll put him in last chance territory. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. Look, he's repaired the bridges. For me, as a fan, I just you can't see past what he did and the comments. That's just my personal opinion. He's not made any sort of public apology because he didn't just blow up on the manager. He almost put the middle finger up to the fan base with the comments that he did make. And during his tenure when he was at Dortmund as well, there were certain celebrations that some people picked up on, and the way that he kissed the club crest, and then some comparisons to how he was at Manchester United with certain scenarios and stuff, and it wasn't the same sort of posture when he was playing for United than when he was at Dortmund. Certain things like that, it kind of throws a little bit of doubt in your mind. But look, at the end of the day, if Ten Hag sees his uses, they've repaired the relationship and they've built upon it well, which, from my understanding, is that they have done. Then, at the end of the day, if Sancho wants to stay on and give it another go, then give it another go. The difference is now, I think he's got more of a chance of maybe reviving his career because he's going to work with a proper coach in Ruud van Nistelrooy who will show him where the spaces are. Wingcraft play, especially at PSV for that team at that time. PSV had, I think they had Madueke. It's just slipped my mind now. They had Madueke, they had Gakpo, and they had, I think it was Xavi Simons who played as a 10, but he also played as a wide left player in some of the games as well. Wingcraft play in terms of those players at that time was brilliant. But at the end of the day with it, you've just got to see basically if there is something left there. And I always say this with players: talent is always there. You've just got to be able to put them in the right environment so it comes out naturally. You can't force talent out of players. It has to come out naturally. Sancho, I think, is one of those players where he's in a good environment like he was at Dortmund before he came to United. You saw the best of him. He comes to United, hasn't really done anything, to much credit. Went back to Dortmund to that comfortable environment. You saw him playing brilliantly again. So it's clearly a problem with this club. And if, as Ineos say, they want to improve the environment, okay, then he should thrive under this environment. But if you want to give him another go, yeah, give him another go. But at the end of the day, he's got to prove a lot of people wrong. And I don't want to hear these PR excuses if there's, bad performances or anything. I want to see some performances on the pitch, not pictures.
No, I think that's fair. Buddy. I think that's fair. Pick up Rob. It says, please could Tom goes upgrade on terms.
Yeah.
Yes, I think as soon as we finish the community, the season preview, we'll quickly do a quick transfer talk, and then contest. That's fine. Yep. So get involved. Yep. And please like and subscribe to the channel. Yep. Thank you very much, Rob. I appreciate it. And Isla says on Twitch, so I'm going to go to bed now. Hopefully win. I hope we win tomorrow as well, man. Have a good night as well, buddy. I hope we win tomorrow as well. I'm not going to be. It's a friendly community shield, so it's fine. So I'm not going to be. I just hope that we don't get disgraced. That's all I'll say. But City aren't playing a strong 11 either. They've got a lot of players that are out that are resting, and so do we. So let's just at least try and just play a good game of football at least. Big up RDS says Eddie dropping costume night, and like I said, big up Eddie. Football's awful, guys. Make sure you go and check out his channel as well. Right, let's quickly go through the rest of these. I mean, he's just going to be in rotation, isn't he? As well. So we've got both goalkeepers there, to be honest. So Wan-Bissaka, I mean, I'm not really going to go dwell on it. But I personally, my personal opinion is that I think he should be in the rotation here because of the fullback situation. But I appreciate that the manager wants to get a different option to sell. But I personally think he should be here. But the manager personally thinks he should be here, and that is fine. As long as we get one, and I would argue two fullbacks, then this is fine. My worry is that we sell this like essentially it's like what happened again with Fred last season. We sold Fred, and I don't think that we really bought anyone to replace what Fred did, because Mason Mount came. We signed Mason Mount. Mason Mount and Fred are not the same player because Mason Mount doesn't press. He's not tenacious and tackling like that. But regardless, we signed him as a midfielder, and then Mason Mount got injured and barely played. So we lost basically our aggression in the midfield. And then coming to the season, our backline was exposed time and time again. No pressing, nothing like that. My worry with the Wan-Bissaka thing is that we do this, and then we maybe sign Mazraoui, and then what happens is that we have another fullback crisis again, where we now have to do makeshift stuff and play Casemiro at centre back and Amrabat here, or we can't even do Amrabat because Amrabat isn't official yet. So we're for me, we're walking very dangerously to a situation where we go from we might have a squad to we're starting the season already having to think of. I don't know many teams aside from Manchester United that are already thinking, okay, how can we take this player who plays in this different position and play that way? Only Manchester United is the only club I can think of where we're doing that. We're like, okay, well, if such and such get injured, we should put this, So I don't think that's good enough. And I feel like you have to secure your squad first before you consider selling players. And right now, I don't see a secure United squad. I see a injury-prone squad, and I see a squad that's not ready. So, but that's my 2 cents. Diallo, on the other hand, I'm sure Tommy agree. I think is probably in the crucial category. Ten Hag likes him. He's going to stay for a bit.
Yeah, I agree.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I agree.
Cool. I'll just speed through these just because we want to get on to different news, and I appreciate it's gone for a while. Lisandro, I think as well, if he stays fit, will also be crucial as well. I think there's no spell that, and guys, I'm in the chat as well. Malacia, I don't want to say last chance because he's still young, but obviously this injury has wrecked him, So I hope, so that he can recover quickly and he can have a good season. Because if he does come back and he comes back fit, and he comes back strong, and he does well, he could be an asset for Manchester United. Because I remember the first couple of games he played, he was like he kept Luke Shaw out of the squad. He was that good. But then, naturally inexperience came in, and possibly he was suffering for an injury, which that's the thing. Maybe he was suffering with an injury and was playing with it, and that's why he's formed it. But, I just hope that if he's going to play in the start, that he comes back from that and comes back stronger, because my worry is that, like Bailly and other players like him, that massive injury has caused him to completely lose what we liked about him in the first place. Evans will just be rotation. I think there's no issue about that. Hannibal is he's sold that, but he's probably sold. If I say rotation goalkeeper, so yeah. Anthony, would you say? I think this. Would you say last chance for Anthony? Would you? What do you think about that, Tom and chat?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think similar to with Sancho, he's had a couple of seasons now. This phase of adapting to the league, he's had enough time to adapt to the league. He's working with a coach that he's supposed to understand the way that he wants to play, and the way that his teams are suited. The difference with Anthony is he offers you a lot in terms of work rate and defensive output, but the final third play, which is what you bought him in to do, and you saw this flicky, tricky sort of player at Ajax, it's just fallen away. And it's not this little pirouette spin thing on the ball. Like, it might please people and it might be a bit of an eye catcher and you might get in the paper or be reported about it, but you're not actually showcasing anything that's actually getting people off the street. They care more about if you put the ball in the back of the net or stick it on someone's head rather than if you're doing a pirouette on the ball.
So just going some comments. Has been on fire. Yeah, we'll talk about transfers in a second, Matty. Has been on fire. Doesn't get a feeling he'll score some more. Yeah, I hope he doesn't, but likelihood he will, knowing Haaland. Sorry, Haaland. Sorry. So we'll go from scoring. So Garnacho, I think, will probably be in the. Is he crucial starting 11? Or even squad? That's a debate. Where does Garnacho? Is he a crucial player for United? Is he starting 11 or is he rotation? I actually don't know, Tom. What do you think? Oh. Oh, he's gone a few minutes. Okay, fine, cool. Well, while Tom is going, let me round up this preview then, and then we're going to start 11 so that Tom can get his trans talk when he gets back. So I would say, big up. I think that's big up Jarvis in chat. Big up buddy from Spain. I wish I was in Spain, buddy. I wish I was in Spain. So where are we? For Garnacho, I'll put Garnacho in starting 11. He is going to be a regular feature in the starting 11, no doubt. Is he crucial? You could make an argument, that again, with all the attackers that we have, with Ahmad, with Sancho, with Rashford, zirkzee, etc., and Haaland, is he crucial? I'm not sure. He's a good player. He's an important player. And that's why I said he probably regularly feature in the starting 11. But to say crucial, Garnacho's approach, I'm not entirely sure yet. Ahmad, I think, will be a rotation player. I think I would like to see Ahmad starting regularly, but I just don't know how he will with Rashford and Sancho. I think there is an underlying thing where the players that cost the most money should play. So I wouldn't be surprised if the front is Haaland, Rashford, and either Sancho and Anthony. I just think Ahmad just seems to be. Maybe I could be wrong, and maybe Ten Hag will prove me wrong. But for all the talk about Ahmad this and Ahmad that, I don't know. And big up, Isaac. I hope you're doing well, Rich. Make sure, guys, who are watching, please head over to his channel, follow him, and subscribe. But yeah, we'll see. Haaland, I think if he's fit, he'll start. But is he crucial? He'll be in the starting 11, I think. Who do we have here that's left? That I think will play. Casemiro, last chance again. I just think that with Casemiro, I don't know if it's age or Brazilian tax. I've got no idea. But he already in preseason, I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't look good. I don't know. It just looks. There's just something with Brazilians when they hit 30. I don't know what happens. With a few exceptions, but this seems to be a pattern all the time. I don't get it, but yeah. If he stinks this season, we should be aiming to kind of try and sell him or move him from the club. Likewise with Eriksen, I mean, these guys maybe just running out their contracts. It's the same thing. I think after that Andy Carroll attack, Eriksen's just not been the same. It's as simple as that, really. Maguire, you can make a case for him to be sold, but again, you need to have at least two centre backs. If we sign de Ligt, okay, then maybe you can make a case that Maguire and Lindelof could be sold. But that's if we sign de Ligt, because then you have de Ligt, Lisandro, Euro coming back, and then and so forth, and then you could choose between Lindelof and Maguire as to who stays. So that's fair. One more player in the bottom I think is worth to talk about. And I hope we got the right picture, actually. I think it's this one. I think this is Harry Amass, I think this is Harry Amass. Either this one or this one. I think it's him. And the only reason I bring in Harry Amass is, again, because of the fullback situation. We talked about it. Because, you know, if we don't get that fullback, it seems that Amass, you know, might come into that role. And if that's the case, I just think that he will probably be a regular rotational player because we have 60 plus, potentially 60 plus games. And if we're in a situation where Wan-Bissaka is gone and we only have Mazraoui, when we sign him, Diallo, Shaw, and Malacia, which is 4, it's quite possible that Shaw gets injured, Malacia gets re-injured, and we're down to just 2 fullbacks in Diallo and Mazraoui. And then you need to think about red cards, suspensions, all the rest of it. So it's quite possible that Amass, if we're in that situation, you know, does come into the squad regularly. And to be honest, given Manchester United in the Europa League and we're in this kind of league type of format, you know, which I think is actually probably, you know, we've got, I don't know, is it how many games? Is it 8 or 9 games in the league or whatever? It means that there's a lot of games that United can play against teams that aren't as impressive. So we should really use the Europa League. And this is the only reason why I like the Europa League to a certain extent, is because it's a good tournament to be able to experiment and use and give players minutes who normally wouldn't get the look into in say a Champions League game or even a Premier League game, you know, because of the nature of the opposition. So if you're going to play him, and it's the same thing with likes of Ahmad as well, and a few of the sort of the squad type players that are around, you know, available. Get them in, get them playing in some of those Europa League games, and you know, and take it from there. So that's our kind of let's see. Let's just get in some comments. I think we'll start getting out, but Ahmad can push him for a regular spot. I definitely agree with that. And then Rich, do you go by, are you RD now or Rich? What do you go by? Have you let's have a look. Where's Rich Evening? Where's the yeah, who's paying decent money for sure? No one really. I don't think anyone really is. Samasi says Luke Shaw sell that cloud. Well, again, as Rich says, who's paying money for him though? Maybe we can give him to Bayern. I don't know. If we can sell Luke Shaw to Bayern from Mazraoui, maybe that might work. Who knows? Maybe that might work. So let's quickly switch over before we get into some transfer updates by Tom. Let's just quickly go to who we think Manchester United's best starting 11 is going to be so far, based on who we have so far for the season. So let me get rid of this 1 second. Here we go. Right, so I'm going to switch to this and share this, so hopefully everyone can see that. And just have a look. So hopefully everyone can see that. The other is just my main name. All right, okay, I same with you. Thanks, Rich. I appreciate it. So obviously, everyone can see here, this is your kind of lineup builder. I'm probably using this quite a bit this season. And I'll just make the title Manchester United squad. If I can spell Manchester United starting 11. Okay. That isn't going to be the formation. What's the formation? Why is it? Can I not change the formation in this? Can't change the formation. What's going on? I can actually. Here we go. Let's do 4. Let's do that. Okay. And I'm gonna do that. It's not that. Sorry, everybody. Right. Okay. Let's try that. Actually 4-2. That's it. Let's try that. Okay. Right. So obviously in goal, big up Lewis. Big up Lewis Watts says, yo, big up Lewis man says 1-0 tomorrow, zirkzee. I hope so. I hope so, buddy. I hope so, Lewis. Lewis, I hope so, buddy. I really, really do. So, and obviously, guys, chip in if you agree with me and Thomas, who you think the best starter left for Manchester United is so far. So I can't put de Ligt or Mazraoui in this team because they're not United players. So you've got to use the United players that we have. Okay. So obviously, Onana's gonna be in goal. That's just how it's gonna be. He's gonna be in goal. That's yeah, he's gonna be in goal. So let's put that there. Centre back wise, it will probably be for me, Lisandro and Euro. Is that fair, Tom?
Yeah, what we've got right now. Yeah.
So Lisandro, and then okay, so do that, and then Lenny Euro. Those will be when he's fit, obviously. And then so yeah, we're talking. This is right back, left back. So right back, geez, well, I guess there's no real point in putting Wan-Bissaka down because he's not really going to be there. So it's going to be Diallo, won't it? So put Diallo on this side here. Let me look at the chat. Just have a look. Yeah. Hopefully we sign Mazraoui, so by such a ball levels above Wan-Bissaka. Oh, fair enough. Okay, fair enough. Now left back is interesting. But based on what we have so far, it's going to have to be short. Unless do you have anyone else? We're talking best start than what we have available right now. At top, is there anyone else that you put there?
I haven't got anybody else.
Exactly. Let's have a look. Midfield. Obviously, kobbie is going to be there. Obviously, first guy on the team sheet, to be honest, but kobbie's going to be there. You can make a case that kobbie was England's best player in that tournament, but for some reason they spent so much time, just focusing on Foden and Kane than the players that actually were useful. So big up kobbie. This guy played a lot of football. People need to if we're talking about rest, kobbie mainoo was someone who had rest. I mean, I know he didn't start at the beginning of the season, but when he came, as soon as he came back, he basically played most games in the midfield. He then obviously played in big games, i.e. the FA Cup final, where he scored the winning goal. And he then played for England internationally. If someone needs a rest, it's him, not this guy. But anyway, that's fine. It is what it is. Now, who plays alongside him in the midfield? That's the question. Chat, Tom, anyone who plays alongside him based on what we have so far.
You're gonna have to stick Casemiro there at the moment.
Let me just see what. Oh, Samasi. Yeah, actually, Samasi, I need to get you on the channel because maybe when we talk about when we get de Ligt and Mazraoui, I need you to come onto the channel because I need a Bayern fan to talk about how good these guys are and the impact they'll have. So I'll send you a DM when or if that happens. But you say Mazraoui is too good, man. Just pay 25 mil, and he can also play DM. Okay, that's I'm United fan, dude. Samasi, you're a Bayern fan on loan to Manchester United. That's the difference. You still have knowledge about Bayern Munich, which would be very useful to me. So, but I still think you should reconsider the United fan thing on being on loan because most people go on loan to clubs that are going to do well. I'm not sure about United this season, but if you want to go on loan to watch kobbie, if just to see how kobbie mainoo plays, then fair enough. But the fact that he can also play DM, I think, is actually that is very useful to know. I think, because if he does that, then suddenly, maybe you can play Mazraoui and then kobbie mainoo and then Bruno, for example, and if you got Shaw playing a left back and obviously Diallo playing there, etc. So that I think is useful to know. How Ten Hag would utilize it, I don't know, but to be honest, we need, if United don't get ugarte, we need another midfielder anyway. I can't have Eriksen and Casemiro carrying this team. I really can't. Anyway, man, I hope that we de Ligt too, but I wouldn't mind Demonte. He looks quality as well. Fair enough. Yeah, I think zirkzee on board. Yeah, we got a lot. We got signing a lot of Bayern players actually. Because zirkzee was in the Bayern Academy as well, wasn't he? But for now, because we don't have those players, it's gonna be Casemiro, Sai. But oh well. Hopefully he does well. Bruno, will obviously play here, and now the front line. What's this? There we go. Now the front three is interesting. Who do you think starts on the right, Tom? And chat as well. Who do you think starts on the right?
If we're basing it off of performance, Ahmed should start.
He should.
He should start.
To be fair, this is supposed to be our best current starting 11. So you know what? Yeah, just put Ahmed down. It's not what the coach thinks. It's who we think the best is. So yeah, let me put Ahmed there. What am I talking about? I'm trying to think about what Ten Hag will do. No, it's just that Casemiro just happens to be. I would argue he plays better here. Actually, does he play better there than McTominay? Does he?
I would say so, because he reads the game a lot better than McTominay.
He does.
The difference with McTominay, if you put McTominay there, is he'll be able to get to players a lot quicker. But the problem is when he gets there, he doesn't really know what to do. Or he'll get done. Whereas Casemiro, he reads the game well, so then he can intercept. If players are not as mobile as, say, if a player is a bit sluggish in the same mold that he is at the age that he's at, it suits him better. But if he's going to play against people who can just rip you to shreds through midfield, like what Ali said in that Palace game, what do you expect? He's going to get cut up. Most players would do. My only argument with this team, and we've never tried it since he's been at United, and I've always made this point, is why the hell we don't put Fernandes as the 8 and try kobbie mainoo as the 10? Yeah. That's what I don't understand. Because I understand kobbie can turn on the ball. Okay, if he can turn on the ball, play him as a 10 then. He can play threaded balls, he can play progressive balls. And the funny thing was, when we actually bought Fernandes, he wasn't actually a number 10. He was a number 8. He was a hybrid number 8 who was a high-pressing player in Portugal who could score from 50 yards with those super goals that we were seeing at Sporting. But we never played him at Manchester United like that. And kobbie mainoo, I think we're still looking at and thinking, where is his best position? Is it a 6? Is it an 8? Or is it a 10? You've got time to figure it out.
That's true.
Fernandes, he's at 28 years old now. He's not getting any younger.
No, he's not. This is a good point, actually. Mazraoui made Anthony look good, guys. That's who you're getting. That's fair. Maybe that's the missing link. Maybe Anthony will cook if we sign Mazraoui on that side, and he actually makes that. Maybe you might be right, Samasi. You might be right. Maybe Mazraoui is the missing link, because if that happens and Mazraoui starts, but he will obviously be on the right, presumably. So Diallo will probably have to go to the left, which will probably cause problems. But I don't know. But I don't know. Because if that's the case and Anthony starts to cook because of Mazraoui, then fair enough. Let's say Bayern. I don't know why. Well, Bayern themselves are doing a madness, man. Bayern themselves doing a madness. De Ligt is a very good player. He's never injured. Always thought Mazraoui could go. Yeah. I think this is the thing. I think that I still make reservations about De Ligt, but I think if you're signing both of them, I can see how that can improve the squad massively, you know. So, and then you get a midfielder in, and then happy days, you know. But let's see what happens, you know. Maybe we come, you know, Manchester United, FC Bayern Munich, who knows? So left, who plays on the left? Garnacho?
Yeah, I would probably argue. Yeah.
On form, yeah, Garnacho.
For form right now, yeah.
Yeah.
From what I'm saying.
Where's it gone? Nah. There we go. Put Garnacho there. And then finally, the attacker. Well, really, you only have zirkzee and Højlund. And we don't really know. I mean, obviously, as Samasi said, Joshua Zirkzee is a talent, but obviously he's not kicked the ball for night. But I don't know. What would you, is it actually worth get ugarte, man? Is it worth starting Joshua Zirkzee over Højlund and seeing what happens? I mean, he can play the false nine role. He links up with. What do you think?
If we're basing it off against City, if he would have been, put it this way, if Holland wouldn't have gone as deep in the tournament as they did, and he would have gone on that tour to America, and he'd have been with the bulk of the squad playing fit and actually playing competitive games and keeping match fitness, because there's fitness and then there's match fitness. The guy's not kicked a ball professionally in a proper game for coming up to nearly six to 8 weeks. So situations wise, it's not a good. It's a good headache to have. My only concern is he's not played enough competitive football to start such a big game. And I have my question marks about some players in the squad who are in the same boat as him. You know, Garnacho is kind of in the same boat. Kobbie Mainoo, you said before, out of all the players in the squad, I think he's the most one that needs a rest out of all of them. Because whenever he was available for last season, he played. And whenever he wasn't available, in parts of it, it was only his massive development for last season was only broken because of that Real Madrid game in pre-season last year. Because if he'd got through that tour, he'd probably been starting from the start of the season. That would have been the difference. But at the end of the day, I think Zirkzee falls into that category as well of kind of like the Euro. I don't just want to see you blow the money that you have done on the kid and just chuck him in the deep end and feed him to the sharks. Properly let him settle in properly, and then say when you play City in the league, we'll have a conversation about it. Because by that time, I think he'll have adapted, he'll have acclimatised, and he'll understand that in this league, it's a lot more competitive than in Italy. In Italy, you might be able to get away with playing against a team that's maybe fighting to stay in Serie A before going to Serie B. The difference is, in the Premier League, every single team has players that can kill you, or has that one-star defender who shines out above the rest of them. And if they have a good day against you, that's where you're going to struggle. Whereas in Italy, he'll have had a lot more discipline because he's playing against a lot more lower-level opposition within Italy, but the quality in the Premier League is different. And that's why, for me, when if he plays against City, I'd be shocked if he starts. He might come on and have an impact from there. But, again, as much as it is about winning a trophy, another one, I think it's more important just to have competitive minutes for a lot of these players and focus primarily on that first game against Fulham.
Okay, so we in agreement over Zirkzee or Højlund then?
If we're basing it off of right now, I think Højlund's probably better suited as it stands now.
Fine.
But the only reason why I say that is, again, because he has been on the tour. He was on the tour. He had played competitive matches, and he has had input in that sense. Whereas Zirkzee is coming fresh off the beach. He needs a bit of time to acclimatise, like a couple of the players do. But the difference is, these players understand this league. He doesn't. That's the difference.
Yeah. That's fair. Although I say I trust you, Samasi, regarding for from the Bayern, because he was from the Bayern Munich academy. So I do trust you in that respect. Let Ahmed play. I hope he does. Oh, Rodri isn't playing. That is a big boost if Rodri isn't playing. That is a big boost. So yeah, I'm happy about that. So that's obviously our starting. I think so far, obviously United's best starting 11, but obviously this will change based on transfers. So probably give an updated best starting 11 for the when the transfer window is closed, and hopefully when United have signed more players. Right. Speaking of transfers, obviously I agree with that starting 11. Speaking of transfers, guys, let's quickly go into some latest Manchester United transfer news, guys. And obviously, Tom, buddy, thanks obviously being with us again. Obviously, there's been talk around the aforementioned players, the ligt, ugarte, United going back in for him. You know, obviously Mazraoui linked to ligt, but certainly ugarte. The talk about United going back in for ugarte, that deal not being over as well. And obviously a few other links. Could you just give us a bit of an update regarding those players, and obviously if there's anyone else that United are currently pursuing?
Yeah, where do you want me to start first then?
So let's start with the sort of de ligt and Mazraoui with the Bayern situation, and then go back to ugarte.
Okay, let me just add a little bit of context to it. Bayer Leverkusen have a player called Jonathan Tah, the club captain. Bayern Munich have chased him all summer. They wanted him, but they weren't prepared to pay 30 million euros to get him. He is 27. That's one of the sticking points for Bayern, why they don't want to push the price tag any further. Leverkusen said, if you don't make an offer of 30 million euros by midnight German time yesterday, then the deal's off. We won't negotiate with you any further. Dialogue's going to be completely closed. If you want to buy him, okay, come back in, but you're going to have to pay more than 30 million euros. They didn't bid for him last night. They've not gone in for him. The deal with it is pretty much, as it stands right now, on hold. Bayern, as I've said before many a time, the ideal solution was they wanted to unblock a hole in the defensive structure, particularly at centre-back, and then fill it in with Tah. Now, Bayern aren't necessarily under pressure where they have to sell Dele, because they're not going to replace him with the player that they wanted to in Tah, as it stands right now. But if they get the sort of money that they're wanting from Manchester United to sign Dele, then at the end of the day, then it frees up that spot. So then if they want to go and sign Tah later on in the window, they can do. They're not forced to do it, but they can do it if they want to. Now, with Manchester United and Dele, the situation was that previously they'd put in a joint bid for Mazraoui and Dele. The point of it was that it didn't meet the value. The evaluation for Mazraoui was fine, but they can't proceed with Mazraoui because Manchester United don't have a spot open at the moment at fullback.
Yeah, okay.
With Wan-Bissaka not going. So that side of the deal is being held up predominantly on Wan-Bissaka's side. If Wan-Bissaka signed for West Ham tomorrow, I would already tell you by probably Wednesday, the very latest, that Mazraoui would be signed sealed as a Manchester United player. It's simplistics of it. Personal terms aren't an issue. They just have to find the finer details out with Bayern Munich. They've agreed a set fee of around 20 million. And then it's just if they want to proceed with add-ons or not. And then negotiate the add-ons structure. That's it. The difference with the lit is they haven't agreed on a ballpark figure and they haven't agreed on the add-on structure. Bayern, the reason why the deal for De Ligt is a lot harder to do, Bayern want 3/4 of the money for the transfer fee up front, whereas United only want to pay half of it up front and then pay the rest of the half in the add-on scheme. But the add-on scheme connects in terms of you pay instalments for 2 seasons. So effectively, they want to pay 3/4, but they just want to pay it over a longer period up front. Whereas Bayern want more of the money up front because then that impacts them to move in the market. So effectively, talks are still ongoing for Dele. The Mazraoui thing, as soon as Wan-Bissaka if he does go to West Ham, which is it's very likely that he will do in the end, is discussing the settlement payout, or the way that United have kind of done it is to West Ham to say, well, if you can negotiate a better deal for him there, as I've said before, we will renegotiate the asking price that we're asking for. So kind of you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours, and we'll reduce the asking price down for you. If you can get him, if you will then negotiate better terms with him so that it covers the windfall that he's going to lose out on. So effectively, United aren't bowing down to his demands. And from there, Mazraoui will sign. And then when Mazraoui is signed for Manchester United, predominantly then that's when the de Ligt thing will accelerate because they've done a deal, they've got good negotiations, and they've got an agreement on one player. And with Bayern, if they get that good negotiations with Manchester United through, they've got the same agent, de Ligt and Mazraoui. So the agent will look at it from the scheme of, okay, we've done business between our clubs together on one deal for one of my clients. Let's do the exact same thing again. Where's the missing pieces? And the agent will also play basically the middleman role of saying, okay, Man United, you pay 3/4 up front, but Bayern, they'll give you what you want in that sense, but let them pay it over a longer period, but they'll just give you more in add-ons. Or we'll give you more up front if it means that we only pay, say, a third, or maybe even less than a third, in add-ons, and effectively negotiate it through. My personal opinion is that I think both players will sign by the end of the month. The only problem is that United just don't want to get ripped off for players that they don't think are valued at over market prices. Mazraoui deal is fine. They agree with the valuation of him. They like the deal that they've done with Bayern. The de Ligt thing, they believe that the asking price that Bayern had put in place at first was over the top based upon what integral part he plays in that squad, which is very little considering they want to get rid of him. And Manchester United's sense of it is, we know that de Ligt's a good player because our managers worked with him before, and they trust Ten Hag's judgment on him, and that they believe that Ten Hag can get the best out of him. The problem is, with Bayern and the way that they're structuring it, United are basically bargaining it and saying, well, if he's that good of a player, why do you want to sell him then? Why do you want to sell him? We're not going to pay stupid prices. This isn't the old Manchester United. We're not here to put free bids in and then end up blowing up, paying what you wanted in the end. That's not how we work. We negotiate now. Effectively, that's where United are in terms of it with de Ligt and Mazraoui. And I believe that both of them will sign at the end of the window, and it's just a game of chess. Man United move one out, it frees up a spot in United. Okay, Bayern have then got a spot with Mazraoui. They've got a bit of money in the kitty. If they get a little bit more over with de Ligt, okay, that frees up a spot in Bayern's squad. They'll probably go and target another defender and replace de Ligt. So it's a game of chess. Move the pawn pieces forward, and then suddenly the king and queen meet for a final battle, and then they get and then everybody's happy, everybody wins, and everybody gets what they want in the end. But the more important point is, nobody looks like they lost out in negotiations. It just looks like it's fair. That's the best case scenario.
No, fair enough, Tom, and thank you for that update, man. I really appreciate it, and hope that answers your question, Rob, and a few others as well. But obviously, just want a bit of an update there. And so, just regarding Ugarte, Tom, because there was some reports I think going on. I think it might have been Fabrizio that mentioned that United hadn't completely abandoned the Ugarte deal. Do you have any information about that at all?
Yeah, well, I said this on the last stream before, that if PSG came to the table and they renegotiate with Manchester United on reduced terms for what they're asking for, United will always be open to the deal because Ugarte is the one that they want. It's the best way that I can describe it is it's kind of like what they've done with Branthwaite, where Branthwaite's the player that they wanted out of all the targets, but Manchester United's evaluation and the club that Ugarte's at, in the same case of Branthwaite with Everton, the evaluations are worlds apart. It's not even like that they're close. They're apart by like 20 million. Manchester
wow.
United for Ugarte would be there for about £40 million, based upon he's not an integral part of the squad. They're signing talented midfielders. They've got Zaire Emery, Fabian Ruiz, Vitinha. They've just brought in João Neves as well. There's 3-4 players that I've just said about there. He's way down the pecking order in terms of Luis Enrique's plans at PSG. But PSG don't just think that they're going to break even and they're going to get back what they paid for him 12 months ago. They want to make a profit on it. They want to make a profit on a player who's basically out of favour. It's not going to happen. And at the end of the day, with how Manchester United are doing business now, they're not going to be played around in the market. Ugarte is the player that they want, but if PSG aren't going to come to them and renegotiate on lower terms, they're going to go elsewhere. And the door with Ugarte is always open, and this is why they are creating this noise in the market now and this dialogue with other players. Whereas, for example, Richard Rios, Palmeiras in Brazil, for example, they've spoken to Richard Rios' camp. The same scenario with Sanderberg at Burnley, and they've also opened dialogue with Burnley around what the structure of a deal would take, and it would take £30 million, which you can give or take for if you believe that's a fair asking price or not. Manchester United are looking more at a reduced figure if they go for one of the alternative options. But the difference is, if PSG came to the table and instead of sitting there and saying we want to make a profit, we want 10 million profit, we paid 50, we want 60. If they came to the table and Manchester United understand this and they said, okay, how about 55? Manchester United from 40 might go to 45, and then you might just meet in the middle and you might break even. And to save the massive headache for PSG, they won't have lost any money, they won't have gained any money, but they will have gained a more youthful potential player in what they've done with João Neves. And then going forward into the future, they've got what they wanted, which is a young, vibrant future of the squad. But at the end of the day is they don't want to overpay for players that they don't think is valued at that market. That's the reason why this Ugarte deal is taken so long, is because it's not even like they're close to each other's asking price. They're 20 million apart. 20 million is one player in football nowadays. And at the end of the day, the way United are wanting to be perceived in the market now doesn't make for good practice when you're going against clubs like PSG, who are demanding on price tags. And PSG, for their credit anyway, a lot of people probably don't realise this, predominantly with PSG anyway, they don't really sell a lot of players for a lot of money or a lot of euros when they do sell them. The problem with PSG is they normally buy the players, burn the talent out of them, or try and progress them, but then they end up leaving for free. Cavani left for free, and Mbappe's just left through the back door for free. So many players have left that system. Rabiot's another one. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of PSG. They're not a great... They perceive as they're great negotiators. They don't negotiate themselves in any good sports in terms of selling players. So marketability for Ugarte is that they have to do the work now, PSG, if they want to make a deal work. But Manchester United aren't going to sit there forever. And that's why they've opened the dialogue with other clients and other alternatives to Ugarte. But even if they got so far as agreeing a fee for another player, if PSG came back to the table and they said, look, we'll renegotiate on reduced terms, can we do a deal? If they did that, they would put whatever player they're negotiating for on hold and they'd switch straight back to the Ugarte priority deal. That's the player that they want. But the difference with Ineos is, and this is one of the words that I've heard around, particularly this summer and going forward, is they don't want this saga where they chase a player for 2 or 3 years, like they did with, say, Frankie de Jong. They chased him for, a whole summer, and then there was always links about going and getting him in January. Then the following summer, there was links about getting him. They're not going to chase players for 2 years, like with Sancho. Dortmund wanted 120 million euros. United were never going to pay it. They ended up chasing him for another 2 years, for another year on top. So they chased him for like 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Ineos don't want to do that for players anymore. So if you don't come now, you've missed the boat. They will go for another midfielder, either now or in the future, who they think better suits them. And again, listen, Ugarte's stock might rise, it might drop. But if PSG want to make any sort of money right now, they've got to do it right now as it stands. Because his asset value will just reduce if he stays at PSG.
RSV, big up RSV, long time no speak. Hope you're doing well, buddy. And obviously, Master says Bayern won't pay us either, so yeah, it might be a stalemate. Question for Tom: So far, did Dan Ashworth, John Wilcox, and Christopher Hivel play a huge role in the signs of Euro and zirkzee? Also, why are we linked with fellow Dutch players again? And I've continued saying, I thought Everton is no longer in control of recruitment and transfers. So why are we linked with fellow Dutchmen, or is it Dan Ashworth and the new structure wanting them?
Okay, so in terms of influence over players, one of the key characteristics that I've always spoken about with Jason Wilcox was he was the head of the City Academy group. So at Manchester City, within their academy system, they had quite an abundance of talented young players who are now profile players in football now. Jadon Sancho was one of them. You had Tosin Adeyemi, who's just recently moved on from Fulham, who was linked to come to United. You've had Phil Foden come through that system, Rico Lewis. There's many more that have been influenced through that system who have either gone on to other clubs or have been influential at City. And the difference in point is he's very good at communicating with young players and convincing them on a project. So if you want somebody to sell something to a young player or a younger player's agent or entourage, like his family, it'd be a perfect solution. And one of the two key conductors as to convincing Lenny Yoro to come to Manchester United instead of Real Madrid was Jason Wilcox and Omar Barada. They know the drill. They've done this at Manchester City when they signed Erling Haaland. They've done this when they signed Julian Alvarez. They've done this with young profile players who they want that big step up for their career to go somewhere. And it's about convincing them. They might have a dream of Real Madrid, but you turn that dream from Real Madrid and you turn it to a reality at Manchester United. That's the way that these guys work. So in terms of Lenny Yoro, Jason Wilcox had a massive influence over that signing, and in particular with Omar Barada, in terms of the way that they negotiated the deal and structured it so that, yeah, it's a large figure for what they paid for an 18-year-old, but they pay it over 4 years. Whereas the difference with what, say, Lille was expecting from Real Madrid was, because Real Madrid didn't really want to negotiate with them in any sense, they was wanting to convince the kid to basically sit on their books for a year and then sign with them in 5 months' time on a pre-agreement to then go next summer. That's not really a good relationship between clubs. Whereas United, they went to the door, they said, look, what's the asking price? They structured a bidding deal where it meant that effectively that United could pay the structure in over, they wanted it originally over 5 years for a whole contract length. Leo said, we can't do that. We don't negotiate like that within football terms. So what they did was they just came up with a structure and said, look, we're negotiating well. We've got a good relationship and understanding of how each other want to do business. And we want the best for Lenny, for his career going forward, because Lille do have that respect with their young players who come through their system. Lenny Yoro respected the club's wishes for what they wanted. And he chose to come to Manchester United. There was convincing in certain things, but it happened. Zirkzee in this case was a little bit different. As far as I'm aware, Dan Ashworth, when he was at Newcastle, Joshua Zirkzee was one of the players that they was looking at as a long-term advocated replacement for Callum Wilson. Callum Wilson, for it, he's a brilliant player, but he's kind of in the similar mold. Isak and Wilson are kind of similar. They're great players when they're fit, but when they're not fit, you realise how much you miss them. Zirkzee was one of those players who he had that release clause of 35 million euro, 33 million pounds, 36 million euros. When they had that structure in place, when Dan Ashworth was in structuring at Newcastle, Joshua Zirkzee was one of those players that they was going to target that summer. For
Fine.
this summer, they knew the release clause figures. Newcastle, if they sold players through to help incline their PSR finances, Joshua Zirkzee was a player that they was going to try and sign this summer. They couldn't get sales done quickly through the window. The Bruno Guimaraes deal to go to PSG didn't happen in the end. They went for João Gomez. So at the end of the day, Newcastle missed the boat, but Dan Ashworth was influencing Zirkzee to go there. And then coming to Manchester United, he then almost made that advocation to say, this is a player that you need. He's a talented player. We've followed him at Newcastle. I believe in this player. Barada looked at the player profile and said, does it make football sense? If it's an age profile, fits the characteristics of it. In consultation with Wilcox, in terms of a youth aspect, does he fit the right character bill for a player of his age and certain differences and imbalancement? Yes. And the final top, cherry on the cake was Ten Hag. Ten Hag openly spoke to the player while he was at the Euros, consultation within his camp, and at the end of the day, it didn't take a lot of convincing for him to come to United. But the difference in the point is, every person with most of these deals, the Euro one was a little bit different because Dan Ashworth was still under contract restrictions with Newcastle at the time. They was negotiating the deal for Euro, so he couldn't influence that in any way. At no fault of his own, he still had contract restrictions with Newcastle. But as soon as that was fine-lined over, he could still influence and advise United what to do. He just couldn't act upon his role in what he was going to do at United. Whereas now he can, and he can have that influence. So the difference is, for the players that they say sign now onwards, I expect everybody in the recruitment department, the same thing with Christian Vivel. Vivel is ideally the guy, the talent ID spotter, who is saying that Xander Berg of Burnley and Richard Rios of Palmeiras in Brazil fit the profile of what you want for Ugarte, but maybe a couple of years younger or a couple of years older, but it fit the style of play that you want to play. But it's going to cost you a lot less to get those players than it is Ugarte. He's effectively giving you options to your primary targets.
Fine. Thanks for the update, Tom. Appreciate it, man. And hopefully, Rob and everyone else asking for transfer updates, hopefully that answers your questions. I don't think, as far as I'm aware, I don't think there's any other. I mean, Tom, have you heard anything else regarding Manchester United players, or is that pretty much it? Because we don't know about Wan-Bissaka, but in terms of United being linked to any additional players, have you heard anything at all today, or were those the main ones?
That's really the main sort of highlights of the roundup, really, at this point in time. But again, I've heard rumours around some of the younger players in this squad. So Toby Collier's got a couple of Championship clubs that are interested in him, but United are still making an assessment of whether they want to put him out on loan or they want to integrate him within the squad. And one of the major reasoning concerns is why United are taking the time with a lot of younger players and not loaning them out is they loaned a lot of players out last summer, but then they created a massive problem for themselves when they had that injury crisis that they didn't have any defenders. They were either on loan or not. They had to rely upon academy players to step up into the first team, like Kwambala, for example, who you could argue wasn't ready, but he took his opportunity when he got it. But in the same point, we say players like Collier, the quality is stacked and the pecking order is only going to follow up if they sign another midfielder. The difference is right now, it doesn't look likely that you're going to sell a midfielder of either McTominay or Casemiro or Eriksen. It doesn't look likely at this stage, but if it comes down to it, if they sign another one and they add to the pile of it, I think that's where they will look at it and think, okay, we've got enough cover. If we want to send players like Collier out on a loan to the Championship. And it kind of fits into that model of what they want. But in terms of sort of the primary bulk of the squad, there isn't a lot of offers that they're listing for players because they've not had any bids. So if you haven't got any bids for players, you can't really negotiate for players. Clubs are informed on like what sort of structuring of a deal United want for Sancho and other players like McTominay and stuff. Like when Fulham put bids in, and then they wanted to be informed of, okay, well, how can we better meet your asking price without paying it up in full? And Manchester United just clearly and abruptly said 30 plus 5. And Fulham aren't prepared to pay those figures. So they've walked away. That's just how it is.
Right. Thanks for that, Tom. Thanks for the update. I really appreciate it. The Rob says also, why did we walk away from Zubimendi? It's a very tiny possibility. From my understanding, and maybe correct me wrong, I don't think United were ever linked with Zubimendi. Was that just all paper talk? Was there actually any real connection with Zubimendi? Or was it just all paper talk?
No, they've been informed about Zubimendi all summer because of the release clause that's within his contract of 60 million euros. But again, what we said before when we discussed about Ugarte, there was Zubimendi who was given as an alternative. But the problem with Zubimendi is he almost fits into the same category as what Ugarte does. But Ugarte is the player that they want, but both players are valued at a similar price tag. So why would you negotiate for a player that that isn't your first choice, who's going to cost you the same amount of money as a player that is your first choice, who you want? It doesn't make sense. The difference with Zubimendi is they never walked away from the deal, but when players, and it happens a lot in Spain, where when you put a release clause upon with a player, you don't actually have to speak to the club to understand how a release clause deal is structured. You have to speak to the Spanish Football Federation because the payment doesn't go directly to Spanish clubs. It goes to the Spanish Football Federation, which then they filter it in terms of installments. So how much you get up front for the release clause, which might be, say, 30 million euros, then it might be 10, and then it might be a final 20 over 3 years. So United have spoken to the Spanish Football Federation about the structuring of a deal, so they know the terms of it. It's not a hard thing to do. It's like you get on your phone right now, you ring, the president or one of the executives at the Spanish Football Federation, you get a listing up of Real Sociedad and say, I want to be informed on Martin Zubimendi's release clause structuring. And you find out from there. It could take you about 20 minutes to do so, and you know what you're doing. And it gives you an option if you want to go down that road. But like I said before, it fits the same price tag model of what they want with Ugarte, but the Ugarte is the player that they want, ideally. And again, you can look at it with the midfielders that they're linked with right now, like Sander Berg and Richard Rios. Man United, I believe, will sign a midfielder, but I think they're almost using this as an excuse to say, okay, we're going to turn a blind eye and turn us back from PSG and make out like we're going to focus on other targets. And if we don't get the tap on the shoulder to say, turn around, come on, let's speak like gentlemen and let's do a deal. If we don't get that within, say, a week or so from PSG now that we're not in open dialogue with them anymore, if we don't get that, okay, we'll go full steam ahead for a different player. But again, they're assessing targets, and I said this before, like they're using it like a target finder, where does it fit the profile of midfield that we want? What sort of price tag does it fit? Does it fit the age profile and the characteristic of what they're going to bring to the group as a personality? If everything, and as soon as it all fits together, and it zones in on one, and it'll zone in on one player out of, say, 4 of them on a list. When it was when there was the list of 5, Ugarte was the player that fitted all those bills of what they wanted, but they just didn't understand that PSG were going to demand that they make a profit on the deal rather than break even. That's the way that United understood it. So at the end of the day, now that Ugarte is almost on the back burner, they're using the target finder on the other 4 players within the listings and saying, okay, who best fits us now then? And we disregard Ugarte for now. But again, if PSG give them a tap on the shoulder to say, turn around, come on, we'll speak we'll speak properly and we'll renegotiate lower terms, then they'll do it. But if they don't do it, there's not going to be a deal.
Thanks for that, Tom, man. I appreciate it. So, like I said, I always appreciate. Hopefully, everyone in chat and the channel can look at, because it's very easy to get. But and this is one. I'll just be honest, but be honest, guys. Like, there are a lot of YouTube channels out there, as I've said several times, that essentially what they do is recycle sensationalist Manchester United journalism with the whole clickbait kind of deal agreed or close or talks, or and just basically it's just speculation. And at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, it's not really to actually be informative or to give any news. And when you look at likes of Chelsea and other teams, they just go about their business, you know. So I think it's really important, because I used to like the transfer window covering because of all the hype and excitement. Now I just find it just annoying, because more so for United, because there's so much that comes out that's just speculative. That, and as you said, allude to, is often just agents just running their mouth, and they're really only a few sources. Thank goodness for, like, almost in Fabrizio, we're like, okay, when this person speaks, I can listen into it, you know. So thanks for that, Tom. I appreciate that. Finally, because we're almost 2 hours, we do have to round up. Let's quickly just end with the community shield review. Now, I'm going to be live tomorrow from 3 doing a watch along on this channel. So make sure you tune in. It's going to be obviously the first game of the season for Manchester United. Obviously, it does sound like there are a lot of players that are going to be out for both teams, certainly for City. I've already sort of discussed about the starting 11. Obviously, I'm not going to redo who I think the starting is going to be for Manchester United going ahead, because it really doesn't matter. But I guess the question is for Tom and for everyone in the chat is, what is your expectation? What are you expecting to see? Are we expecting a win for United here? Are we expecting what are we expecting to see from Manchester United in this game? So, what do you think, Tom?
I think that, you know, probably the bigger expectation is just compete against City. And I think one of the bigger factors that surprised Pep probably at the FA Cup final was that United actually set up a game plan, which it meant that they weren't exposing the weaknesses that they'd had all season, but it also meant that they could counteract what City's weaknesses were and use it to their strengths, which was they leave the spacing behind, so just play players who were going to exploit that. And it wasn't about pretty patterns or a style of play or direct runs. It was just the simplistics of it. Put a ball over the top and let some players run after it. And if you've got some quality players at the top end of the field, which United do, like Ahmad and Rashford and certain players on the day, they can come up with a moment of magic. And at the end of the day, they did that. And, you know, Fernandes played his part in the game. Kobbie mainoo played his part. They all did. Amrabat even had, I think, a more mundane and, you know, superb game. Probably his best game that I'd ever seen play in a United shirt. But at the end of the day, in that game, Manchester United almost took it to City and basically just said, we're not intimidated. We will play toe-to-toe football with you in some parts of the game. But when we need to defensively solidify up, we will do. And at the end of the day, City, the best case that I can say for it with both teams is they're missing key players. United are not going to be without Shaw. They probably would want Lenny Euro to start the game. They haven't got a new midfielder in there, which I think United probably would have wanted. They haven't got a new centre-back in defence. Zirkzee is a question whether he will start or not because of, like I say, he's not had match fitness. So it's basically the same squad that you had for last summer, but a bit weaker because you've lost Varane and you've lost Amrabat. So it's a weakened squad. City obviously are without players as well, like Stones and Walker and Rodri as another player as well. But again, it's one of those games where United just need to treat it as if you are playing against Manchester City, but if you're going to beat City, this game should ideally be a lot more opener and you should have more chances at City's goal than you did in the FA Cup final game, because they're without, I would say, the best centre back in John Stones. They're without the best defensive midfielder in Roger, and they're without their recovery pace player in Kyle Walker. So for me, three of City's most best defensive weapons and shield players are not going to play in the final. So if you're going to play it, United, the best thing that I could say for it is, if they're not going to play a clear style of play in this game, do what you did in the FA Cup final. Play this low block, stable system, and then when you get your chances, just play the best attacking front line that you have that can be direct with City and playing behind, and effectively trust that they're going to get opportunities in the game, which they will do against City because they leave the spacing behind, and take them. That's all you've got to do. And in the final, that was the game plan. They got through it and they did it. They stuck to the game plan, and that was that. So at the end of the day, it's one of those with Man United. You just don't know what you're going to get. And the only, I guess, saving grace is for people that have watched the pre-season tour or some of the games on the tour, even when they're getting smacked by Liverpool like 3-0, the performance was good. There was patterns, there was a bit of a style of play and a bit of rhythm to the team. But you have to see that now as a first team squad, week in, week out, when games actually matter and it actually means something.
That's fair. Thank you. Thanks to them. Although what I would say is I agree with Rob on the score. I actually think it might be a 1-1. And if it does that, I think that United win on penalties. That's actually what I think. I think it'll be a 1-1. But I much rather trust Manchester United penalty takers and stoppers, because I think as a shot stopper, I think in penalties, Onana is actually better than any of the City keepers that they have currently, and we have better penalty takers. I said that from the beginning. I was like, if we meet City in a competition, aside from the FA Cup when it mattered, if we go to penalty shootout, I trust Manchester United over Manchester City. I just do not trust. And funny enough, in the World Cup, it was the same thing. Who missed the penalty when it was England versus Switzerland? Well, there you go. It was a Manchester City player. So that's what I'm saying. And I don't think any Manchester City player took a penalty for England, as far as I'm aware. Which would have been Stones, Walker, and Foden all didn't take penalties. So what I'm saying is, you don't give penalties to Manchester City players. It just is what it is. Jarek says evening. If did it comes in? Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the starting that we put was on who we have available at present. I will probably do a review of that once the transfer window is closed, but it's based solely on obviously who's going to be who's available at Manchester United at this current time. Obviously, and I think Bruno will play as a striker to bulk up the midfield. Possibly. I think Ten Hag did seem to like that last season. So, but yeah, I mean, this is obviously a full sort of preview. We'll do that more so towards next week when we preview the Fulham game. I think we've got, isn't it Fulham at home? And in fact, let's have a quick look at, while we're here, let's have a quick look at Manchester United's fixtures. So let me go back here and see. So, where we go. What have I done? Here we go. So obviously, next week is Manchester United versus Fulham at home. Then we have Brighton away. Then a big game, Liverpool at home. We need to not lose that, please. That's all I'll say. Just don't lose, but it's at home. It's at a home game. It's Liverpool first. So let's not lose that, please. I don't know what to expect from Brighton, to be honest, especially with De Zerbi gone. I generally don't know. Who's the Brighton manager now? Who is the Brighton manager now? Who replaced him? Someone remind me in the chat.
It's that guy from Germany. I've got his name.
Okay.
St. Pauli's in Germany.
I don't know what to expect from these guys, but I always know that away to Brighton we struggle, but I don't know because they ended last season quite poorly and they've sold a lot of key players, so we'll see.
Fabian Hürzeler.
Fabian Hürzeler.
Yeah.
Liverpool is going to be tough, especially with that slot bounce. So you hope that we get our signings in before this game, before September, which isn't that long away from now. Southampton away, fine. Crystal Palace and Spurs, 2 trips in London. And again, Palace are a problem away. We've always had issues with Palace away. It's gotten worse under Ten Hag, to be honest. And Spurs at home, we don't know. It depends, So, I look at these fixtures and I think, but actually, when you look at where these teams are, these aren't easy games. And if United don't have the squad depth and aren't ready, we could easily we could be in trouble. We could be in a lot of trouble with a couple of games into the season. Obviously, Aston Villa doing really, really well. Brentford, I don't know, but West Ham cooking, so it's not going to be easy. And we need our squad ready to really be able to compete, to be honest. Otherwise, we're going to be, 8, 9, however points already away from top 4. We don't really know what's going on. Let's look at the comments here. Even with Eurofit, Aaron Cag will pick de Ligt. Possibly, I guess the Ajax connection, maybe. Maybe. I guess my thing is that if Euro was fit, well, they always would have wanted to sign him, but I don't know because I guess the question is, I'm fairly confident that Mazraoui will come, but how confident are we that de Ligt will come? Lots of people underestimate de Ligt. He is level Balkan defenders, and the ones we're linked to. I don't know. I don't. I think my only caution with de Ligt is just that I don't want to overhype the guy. He went for a lot of money from Ajax to Juventus. It didn't really work out. Then he went to Bayern Munich, and now Bayern Munich don't want him anymore. So I don't think he's bad, but I do think that I need to be, especially with all the Dutch or Ajax-based players coming. I'm just raising a small eyebrow and say, well, let's just see what happens. So let's just see what happens. Frederick Hersel or something. Plenty goals said, yeah. I'll be honest. I'm not. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't. To be honest, my mainstays are still Fabrizio and Ornstein. I'm really not 100% on with Plenty goals. Yeah, I know it's mentioned a few things, and I know people are going to want, but I'm not, because sometimes, from what I've observed, they say certain things, and it's still a bit far off the. Saying it's going to be done in August is very vague because it's not saying that it's really specific. Because at some points, was that next week? Is that the end of August? Yeah, and then if he gets it right, it's like, yeah, Plenty goal covered it. It's like, yeah, but realistically, the likelihood of it happening is obviously high already, given the fact that all we need is Wan-Bissaka to leave and Mazraoui goes, and then once you have that, it's like, okay, well, can you now negotiate with Bayern for a bit more? And chances are United will pay it. So I don't know. Let's see what happens though. Right. So yeah, I mean, I guess just so final thoughts as we round up. Like, are you optimistic for this season, Tom, or what do you think?
I think by the end of the window, Manchester United probably sign a couple more players. I think a lot more people will be a lot more open-minded and optimistic to the season, depending on what sort of players that they buy. So if they buy the players that ideally are a lot of people's favourite choices, which ugarte is a very popular player that Manchester United fans want. In the same case, you could say for de Ligt and Mazraoui, if you get them as a duo, because some people will look at it as you're signing Mazraoui and he's an upgrade on what you got with Wan-Bissaka. You could also say a similar thing with de Ligt, with sending someone like Maguire or Lindelof out the door, if you end up selling them. And with Ranieri, you've almost signed like a young, up-and-coming Raphael Varane. That's what it's been paint pictured as. So, effectively, you've replaced what was average in many people's eyes with quality. And even if these players don't end up starting games, they're better players that are coming off the bench than what you had originally in Maguire or Lindelof. For example, if you get an injury to one of Martinez or Delay, you stick Lenny Euro in there. I think you'd rather stick him in there, even though he's 18 years old and, top talent and all the rest of it. You're sticking him in there, but at the end of the day, he's better than what you've had before, or he's shown a lot more talent for such a young age for the future than what you currently have, say, with Maguire and Lindelof. And it gives you that options. And that's one of the things that was one of Ten Hag's favourite words last season was options. And he said the lack of options that he had last season. He does have options this season. That's it. And by the end of the window, I think he will have pretty much a depth in squad, which he should get results from. And there is no excuses. He's got the coaching staff that he wanted originally of his choice. He's got a club structure above him, which is supporting him within player recruitment and making sure that they're signing the right players for the right prices and profiles. So it means that they can influence the market more. But it also means that he can focus on on supposedly his best credential, which is coaching. So get the best out of the players, get the best performance, get the best results.
I agree, Tom. I agree, and fingers crossed we'll have a good season. Anyway, guys, we've been streaming for 2 hours now, so I think it's time to round up. It's getting quite late in the UK here, but big up everyone in the chat. Big up everyone in the chat as well. I see you coming to John Wick, and yes, I agree. I agree with that. I think you're right. I think he might actually be a fan favorite. So let's see what happens. And obviously, Rob says, Tom is the main man, number one journalist, and I agree with that 100%. He is definitely my go-to for Manchester United news and other news as well. If I had the time, we could even go into other teams as well, but it's late here in the UK. Big up everyone as well. Remember, if you are new, like, share, and subscribe to the Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter at WeUnitedX, also on Twitch at Red Devil Studio, Instagram and TikTok, links on the description. And obviously, guys, make sure that you follow Tom at TomJournalist1 on Twitter and show him some love. Have a nice day, everyone, and cheers. Peace.
Peace.